Hey guys, Airbnb system went down today, scaring the whole entire world. And fortunately for us, I don't think it's a permanent thing. But let me update you. Airbnb system went down today because they're updating to something that they're calling the summer release. And the summer release is basically twice a year. They do a winter release, they do a summer release, and it's where they update features and update their algorithm. And last year, November 2022, they released a whole host of new features. And then, of course, they did this algorithm change that caused people to fall out of search. Well, this summer, we're all in anticipation of how that's going to go. But in their attempt to turn their in an attempt to turn their software into something brand new, introducing things like Airbnb rooms and trying to be more competitive and give us new features, they accidentally just downed their whole server. Um, sound should be working, guys. Hold on. How I can hear myself. Check your mic or check your speakers. So what happened is the system went down because they're trying to update for the summer release. Oops. And this happened to them a long time ago too. They used to code their system on something called Ruby on Rails. So for all of you nerds out there, I don't think I can actually increase. I actually can increase my mic volume. So sorry guys. So for all of you guys who know anything about software, Airbnb used to be coded on something called Ruby on Rails, and they got too big, and the system broke along the way. This was like years and years ago, but they are prone to. Thank you guys for letting me know I sound fine. So they're prone to this type of breaking. Now, there's something that I think that needs to be said. Airbnb's summer release is like introducing a bunch of new features that I think we need to talk about at one point in time. Their stock actually crashed when it went down too, so we all freaked out. Not just us hosts, but investors too. They just started dumping the stock. Really fun times. So there's some things that you guys need to know about the summer release, and I think it's important we bring you up to speed. What's going on in the summer release is they're trying to introduce new features. Some of those new features are your ability to just from the app, like swipe on some dates and change some prices. They have now added checkout instructions, which a lot of homeowners really want, and the system for that seems actually pretty cool. They've got updated checkout instructions that say, okay, do the laundry or something like that, and they give you kind of suggested ones, but you can add extra details there. They've also allowed you to choose how much of a role your co-hosts can have. Now, this one I think is big because this might mean that they're finally actually just moving away from teams. They were trying to have this Airbnb Teams feature, and I think they've just kind of abandoned it. And they're like, we're just dumping that. Now, I do not know yet. We're going to test this. I do not know if that means you can allow a co-host to do resolution requests, because a lot of us who have co-hosts or have assigned co-hosts for our employees, they can't do resolution requests on a co-host account. We have to do it from the admin side. So that's something that we're trying to figure out. But they also allow you to do payment splits. You can either give your co-host a fixed rate per month, a fixed cost per reservation, a fixed percentage per reservation. So needless to say, I'm going to be doing a series of videos on the summer release features. But what I think is important for you guys to know, since the system went down, I really do think that they're making massive changes to the software, right? That's the only reason why something materially breaks, is when you've made enough substantial changes to software that when you flip the switch, it doesn't compute and it just doesn't operate anymore. So they made some serious ground level changes to their software. And in November 2022, when they did the winter release, everybody's listings just stopped showing up in search. Do you guys remember that? And about a month ago, there was a bug in the mobile system where luxury homes weren't showing up in search because they started to update some features and they started clipping out the most expensive listings. I found out that this was in preparation of a new feature that they put into the summer release that allows you to adjust your prices to your most relevant competition. So that feature for the summer release that they're trying to make for all of us caused the most luxury listings to fall out of search. So they've kind of have a breadcrumb trail of breaks here. But because of the big changes, I think they're also going to do another big algorithm change. So I want you guys all to watch out. If your listings start not showing up in search again, it's going to be because Airbnb made an algorithm change and just decided your listing wasn't interesting. So we're going to have to do more split testing, find out what Airbnb's new plan for the summer is, what listings they're pushing, what listings they're not. Remember, last year, they started to really lean on no cleaning fee, for example. So we're going to find out what it is. Now, I do have a link in the description of this video for a webinar I did on the algorithm in December. Basically, what happened, November hit, people just went nuts, their listings disappeared. I did some split testing, and then I did a webinar with my results, and I did a full top-down education on how the algorithm works. So if any of you guys don't know how the Airbnb algorithm works, I would like you guys to check out that webinar, deep dive, learn how the algorithm materially works and has worked for the longest time, and how to adapt to the changes that they make, because If they do a big algorithm change, yes, I will come out with a new webinar, a month or two after at the latest. But things will be broken in the meantime, and I don't want you guys being kind of like up the creek without answers. So just check that out. For any of you who have questions, we don't get to do a Q&A very often, do we? So feel free to throw some questions in the live chat. And when you watch this replay, the questions will stay in the live chat. I've decided to allow that live chat replay to happen, so you guys are now famous. Your comments will stay up even though we're on the live chat. I do think another thing that we should talk about would be what the Airbnb rooms thing means strategically for Airbnb. They are trying to get back to their deepest roots, right? If you guys remember the origin of Airbnb, they did this air mattress in their living room. Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, like Nate, I think is the other third guy. They were roommates in San Francisco trying to start a company. They couldn't decide what they wanted to start, and they were running out of money to pay rent. So during a convention, they rented out their living room and let somebody stay in an air mattress, and that was the first guest for Airbnb, like 2008 or 9. But then they abandoned it for a while. The only reason why they picked up Airbnb again is they were at home for the holidays at dinner, and their parents were like, "Why don't you come home? What are you doing with your life? Stop wasting your life." And they're like, "No, Mom and Dad, we own a company." They're like, "What company do you have?" They're like, "Airbnb." But they abandoned it for months and months. And that original idea of having rooms and mattresses on the floor was what gave them their sense of, like, you could say authenticity, that traction with the hipster, like early adopter world. Because in the tech world, you're trying to get these like progressive early adopters. Well, Airbnb has kind of lost that. They've become more of a commoditized service because we're competing directly with hotels now, right? So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to build market share on a product that hotels don't want to compete with. And that's why they're doing Airbnb rooms again. This is a strategic move away from the commoditized version of all this, where people can rent like super sexy properties. But that's the thing too, don't you think? Airbnb has a couple of products that hotels won't ever compete with. Really interesting spaces, like staying in tree houses and stuff like that. Those are truly interesting. Really big houses. Marriott is actually trying to compete because they made a platform called Marriott Homes and Villas. And they're trying to pick up all of the best properties so they can rent those out too. But that's the thing, is like Airbnb and VRBO are still the best places for you to get all these big houses. That's still a hard to tap into market for the hotel world to pick up that inventory. But now they're trying to go into the low dollar space. Now the question is, if they're doubling down on like cheap accommodations, what is that going to say for our upcoming economy? Do you think that strategically they think that the world is going to go to a handbasket situation, and the only way that they're going to generate real revenue is for lower cost listings? This could be the unspoken part of their strategy. And if you guys have been watching like the stock market and quarterly releases, there's a company called Vacasa that released guidance that their hosting was down. I did a video on this before. They've lost properties. They've lost like tons of like revenue for like loss of reservations. Their pace just went way down. And so they're saying that the recession has materially affected their ability to keep their properties full. But at the same time, Airbnb is going, oh, we've got unprecedented growth. We've got more listings and more nights booked. But so when you look at that disparity, people like us with properties are saying, oh, we have less houses and we have less nights booked because there's a swell of supply. Airbnb is not going to say, oh, the swell of supply is negatively affecting our host community. We're just getting more nights booked. Even though supply has grown 40%, our like demand has grown 12%, and they're still touting 12% growth. But what that's doing is the 12% growth is still at a lower average occupancy. And these are precursors to potentially recession. And I think without them being forthcoming to us, they've now said, we've made our decision strategically where we're going in the future, which is Airbnb rooms. So that way we can continue to gain revenue off of the lowest tier of like average nightly rate kind of stuff. That's what I think is going on. You know what? Lens World asked, are they trying to get us get rid of our dynamic pricing software? In a way, here's the thing that you guys probably need to know about all on-demand softwares. The reason why Airbnb has more like participation than say something like Booking.com is Airbnb is strategically trying to go the way of Apple, and they're trying to make their UI super friendly. But even above that, when you have a peer-to-peer software, what you need to do is you need to give the users like us, the host community, you need to give service providers enterprise level solutions to run their business. And Airbnb has done a great job with scheduled messages, with the multi-calendar, with rule sets. Now they're trying to roll out more and more features so that way you rely less and less on other stuff. And if you just solely rely on Airbnb for all of your solutions, that's what Apple would call being sticky. You don't want to leave Airbnb because they give you like 10 different widgets that make it easy to run your business. VRBO has some widgets, which is cool. Booking has no widgets. And that's what keeps you on Airbnb. So this is a strategic way to get you reliant on them. So yeah, in a way, they do want you to not use a dynamic pricing software, because the dynamic pricing software might help you price perfectly on Airbnb, but also in VRBO and also in Booking. And if you don't ever get bookings on VRBO or Booking.com because you don't have a pricing software, you're going to get all of your bookings from Airbnb. So this is a strategic move. The more features they give you on Airbnb, the more reliant. Melik asked about Airbnb arbitrage and how we get started for free. Guys, you can get started nearly for free with arbitrage. You guys know my story, right? I went homeless in 2009. I tried to start my first company. It didn't go well. Then, because I went homeless, I had an eviction on my record for 5 years. So through 2014, I couldn't sign a lease on my own. So I used an LLC to start signing leases like in 2011. That led me to this truth that you can sign leases just like for houses or apartments. Now, that $300 expense for an LLC allows you to avoid paying a down payment on a house. Now, you can't do it completely free because the landlord wants some money. But if you do good negotiations, you can maybe tell the landlord, hey, I want the first 8 weeks of rent for free, and I'm not going to give you a security deposit. That'll drive down your costs to almost free. You'll still have to pay for an application fee. They might make you pay the first month's rent, but give you the next 2 months free. It is a really low-cost way to do it. And I have a whole playlist on how to pitch landlords Airbnb, Malik. Just go check out my playlist. Just type in pitching landlords Airbnb playlist. Just type that into Google, and you'll find it. There's a lot there. Parish bookkeeping. I'm not an accounting expert, so we probably won't be doing a bookkeeping. A lot of people said my audio is fine. Some of you say my audio is low. For those of you with low audio problems, I apologize. You can play this back and crank it up at one point. Little Mermaid or Little Mountain Life asked if I see unique stays as a bulletproof strategy. Actually, in a way, right? So here's the game theory of Airbnb for any of you who don't fully understand. Airbnb has a bunch of one-off listings, unlike a hotel. I'm looking at the W here. My penthouse is 40 floors. The W is 40 floors, so I get to see the logo. It's really cool. But that property has like 300 of the same room for the most part, I guess is what I'm saying, right? They've got some king bed units. They've got some queens. They've got some double queens. They've got some suites, whatever. And that property can do bigger marketing campaigns to fill their whole building up. Way cool. But the problem is there's nothing super unique about any one of their units, which means they have a different cost approach, right? Spend more money on general marketing. They try to sell maybe their amenities areas like their pool or their bar to get more people in, right? Sell them on the amenities. But when you guys have a unique stay, let's say you have a themed house or you have a tree house or something like that, you don't need to spend money on marketing because there should be enough aggregate demand from the platform that your one door can continue to get booked. See, where the W here or the Hilton over there or something that they're building right here, all these, there's 1,000 hotel rooms right here, and they have to compete with each other. Right? So now they have to spend marketing to get you and 300 other people to stay in a single night, right? That's a lot of work. But your unique stay, you should be able to get your one place booked on the Airbnb platform just based on your novelty alone. And that's why when we pick up apartments, we can easily pick up, say, 5 doors, sometimes 10 in an apartment complex and have no cannibalization, like where we don't suffer less occupancy on 5 to 10 doors. But if we pick up 100 doors in an apartment complex, we'll start to lose occupancy like percentage averages because there's just not enough traction on Airbnb to fill 100 doors in the same building. Airbnb is built on novelty. Its whole platform is novelty. So if you had 5 apartments, here's what you should do. Paint one of them black. Paint one of them primarily pink, paint one of them primarily green, primarily blue, something like that. And then as you grow, double down on those so you have no more than 2 or 3 of the same color design, and then all of your spaces are much more unique. That'll help you spread your risk across 10 doors because you have different design styles. But what that will show you is that some units will perform better because some looks are more popular, and you can continue to grow what works. And so let's say you guys had a yurt, a bubble dome, a tree house, and an A-frame cabin, right? Let's say you were trying to do unique stuff. You might find that one of these 4 does better than the other 3. So the 5th property you get should be more of the one that works. So if A-frames are working in your area, you just pick up another A-frame, right? If the bubble dome thing that can look at the sky is doing better than everyone else, then pick up more of those. These are the types of feedback loops that you're looking for when growing on Airbnb. But to boil down the answer to a yes or no question, yes, unique stays will always do better. If Airbnb is down again, somebody just said Airbnb is down again. Let me check. Let me open up the app here and see what happens. Let's see if this loads. And Cody asked about when launching 40 properties, do you make 40 new separate listings? There's two ways to do this. Airbnb really doesn't talk about one of them. Normally, you'd make 40 separate listings on Airbnb. So you'd actually have 40 doors on Airbnb. Airbnb has something called representative inventory now. It's a new thing. If you had 40 doors that were all blue, all king bed, same layout, you could have one listing on Airbnb, but once somebody books it, it still shows up because you have 39 more times to get booked. So they're going to basically on the back end manage your 40 doors, but only show one listing. And they're doing this because Airbnb's algorithm, if you guys remember in November, started to downward spiral people, right? The less views you got, the less interesting you were. And the people that got affected the most were people who had multiple of the same property. Because they released representative inventory, it started to crush people with multiple doors. So representative inventory makes sure that all 40 of your doors get healthy view metrics, but as you continue to get booked, right, you're not going to have 20 doors that Airbnb thinks is unpopular and 20 doors that Airbnb thinks is popular because you have one representative product on curbside on Airbnb and they're just going to fill your bucket on the back end, but all 40 of your doors will still get healthy view metrics. So, you know what, guys? I think Airbnb's down again. Airbnb is down again. I just got the wheel of death loading. So it's going to be a big update is what it looks like. Now, Airbnb stock, let's actually see where Airbnb stock is now that it's down. It dropped pretty bad. Like as soon as the Airbnb went down, their stock tanked. It actually dropped from like basically $117.50 down to $116.18. It's bounced back a little bit, but I think it's going to continue a downtrend because investors do not like surprises. Guys, Javier asked about relisting a property if it hasn't been booked for a month. Yes. If your property has not been booked, you should not only just relist your property, but before you do that, you need to take like a good hard look at what made your property underperform, right? So for example, you see how my ceiling isn't black, but my walls are? See how I stopped at the top? One of the best units in Dallas has this Gothic modern black theme, but they even paint the ceiling black. So when they took the photos, you could see the bed, the black walls, the black ceiling, a really cool chandelier, and it's just so powerful. A lot of hosts, the reason why the properties aren't getting booked is because they stop along the way at one point in time. They stop along the way here and just don't do the most outlandish stuff. So if your property's not doing well, you should look at why. You might be doing bad with your pricing strategy. You might have done a bad job with your design. You might have blocked off dates and Airbnb's mad at you for like reserving your calendar for other stuff. It could be a bunch of things. But before you go make the new listing, be prepared to make some key changes and then test those changes. That's really what you guys should do. Anybody got some new questions? I actually stopped investing in Sonder, guys. Somebody asked how my Sonder stock bet is. I actually only trade Tesla. I'm day trading because of Tesla's volatility. So I'm day trading Tesla. It's been really fun. When their quarterly release guidance came out, I was shorting Tesla and they dropped so much. It was a really good play. But I'm not trading Sonder. I'm only watching Sonder and Vacasa and Airbnb just for the sake of being able to teach you guys. Okay, we've got Spotty. We've got Spotty use. Somebody says the Airbnb app is working for them. And I just got a notification a minute ago. So I think the app's up again. Fun times. So reminder, guys, I've got a series of different products that you guys can have access to. I've got a free playlist on here that's like a front to back course for everything. I've got a playlist that is how to pitch landlords and do it like rental arbitrage. Playlist for that, that's free. I've got a playlist on pricing strategy. Like, so you guys can front to back use pricing strategy. Because a lot of you guys are using Wheelhouse or Price Labs and you don't even know what the thing does, right? You should be studying pricing strategy if you're going to use the software. You need to know how to drive if you're going to own a car. You know what I'm saying? So do that stuff. Now, on top of that, I've got some really heavy-handed products, too. If you go to rockygeach.com, RAKIDZICH, that's my last name, rockygeach.com, you're going to see that I've got a bunch of other educational products. I encourage you guys to go there, too. Like I said, re-algorithm. Any of you guys who are concerned about the summer release algorithm change, you should know that stuff. Any of you guys want to do market research to pick up your next property and not have to pay AirDNA for the data, I just released one called Big Data. These are big pieces of educational content that I'm super tied into, like really nerdily tied into. Airbnb went down because anytime that you make, so somebody asked why Airbnb's down. Airbnb went down because anytime that you make a material change to a software, you're going to have your old version on a server. Then you're going to build out a new version in a production environment like a sandbox. And then you're going to turn the lever on and switch from one to the other. Well, when they did that, something in their sandbox version wasn't working right. Something just was broke. So they tried to make a change to their software. And when they turned on the production version of the new, it just collapsed. But what this is an indicator of is the amount of code that they must have changed in order to break this thing when they switched it. So like I said, they're adding new features. Their co-host stuff is really cool. Their checkout instructions is really cool. Some of their UI stuff is just to make you guys have a better experience for like absolute newbies, but that stuff's not really going to be materially different. But I do think that their algorithm is going to shift a lot because they're pushing Airbnb rooms now. This is going to really up a recent video that I just did, guys. And I'm actually, let me actually go into my list of videos that I've released really recently, because I did a video on this split strategy. And since Airbnb is releasing Airbnb rooms, it's going to make the split strategy so much more relevant for any of you guys that have big houses, right? I did a pricing strategy video on big houses, but beyond just the pricing strategy elements, at the end of this video, I teach you guys something that I call my split strategy. I taught it 4 years ago while I was in Bangkok. I was traveling in Bangkok with my buddies, and I have a buddy named Anthony Morrison who used this strategy after I coached him on how to do it, and he's actually had a lot of results. So this video that I just linked, any of you guys who have houses, 3-bedroom or bigger, what I want you to do is I want you to consider using the split strategy and getting on Airbnb rooms with your private rooms. You're still going to try to sell the whole home, but you're going to use Airbnb's private rooms in order to like get last minute bookings for your spaces. I think rooms are going to perform much better than they ever have based on the strategic change. You're still going to get your big, sexy 4-bedroom house booked all the time for weekends and stuff. But in all those days that you have to drop your rate to get full, instead you just have 4 private rooms that you sell off. And the cool thing is in a 4-bedroom house, you're going to have a group of 12 or 14 that book far in advance. The people who book private rooms, they'll book today, tomorrow, last minute. So you're going to get your leftovers. Your leftovers will get booked in the Airbnb rooms is what I want you guys to do. Joanna, Florida is a great place for Airbnb in general. Rental arbitrage, I say any market that's good for Airbnb is typically good for rental arbitrage, except for like your hyper-saturated vacation markets like in the mountains. Like a lot of people who are trying to buy property in the Poconos, that's really hard. I still have some students who are successful there, but then Gatlinburg, Tennessee, or other places like that, or places in Colorado where there's like a limit of cabins and stuff, it's really hard to arbitrage in a place where all the people know what Airbnb is. So my favorite places to arbitrage are tier 2 cities. I know you just mentioned Orlando. I'd probably recommend Jacksonville instead until Orlando washes out a little bit more. Because like Barsala is a big company in our space. They just defaulted on almost 200 leases. I think 200 leases in downtown Orlando they defaulted on, which means like rents might deflate, landlords might get scared, people might wash out of the market, and then in 6 months or 9 months, Orlando could be good again. But in the meantime, I would consider places like Tallahassee or Jacksonville instead of Orlando for now, right? Airbnb's back up. All right, it's up and down. The new UI for leaving reviews is trash. It has always been trash to me. One thing you guys need to know about reviews too. Somebody's like, why did the person leave me 5 stars for everything like cleanliness, communication, but then I still got a 3-star review? The reason why is this is somebody from Airbnb Markets. My market director manager person told me this. When somebody gives you a 5-star review for cleanliness or communication or location, stuff like that, that is internal just for you. Those specific stars are just for you, so you know what you do right or wrong. But the one overall 5-star rating that you get, the overall 5-star is the only one that Airbnb actually tracks. So if they give you 5 stars for everything, but at the end they're like 2-star, you actually got a 2-star review, even though they gave you 5 stars for everything, because Airbnb is like the specifics are feedback for you. The overall one is the one that Airbnb actually weighs. So if you get a 5-star for cleaning and stuff like that, and then you get a 2-star overall, Airbnb doesn't care about your 5-star for cleaning. Your overall ranking, how you show up in SEO, the overall ranking is the only one that they care about. It's actually really not fair, I think. It's just a problem that they've had. Airbnb absolutely is nervous about Google Vacation Rentals, Lipsy. Here's the thing. Airbnb is nervous about VRBO. When VRBO did that Super Bowl ad and they stole a bunch of business for a while, that made Airbnb nervous. The fact that Booking.com exists at all makes Airbnb nervous. And so if you think about the fact that Google's entering the space and Marriott Homes and Villas, this is a big reason why they're adding Airbnb rooms as one of their competitive elements. They're trying to capture markets that they don't think anybody else is going to follow them into. So right now, on the back of a recession and down revenues, they're trying to essentially capture money that no one else is going to go for, and that's hopefully going to keep their balance sheet strong. That's what they're going for. And out of 10, Muhammad asked about how I'd rate the features out of 10. I'd actually give it like a 5, right? There's a couple cool things, but those couple cool things are things that they promised and things that were long overdue. A lot of their stuff is just lip service. And I think my live stream is starting to bug out. So with that said, guys, my favorite decor theme is Gothic Boho. Look up Gothic Boho, like with like a key lime green chair, right? Or key lime, or like a really light green couch, but everything else is just black and plants and stuff. Because I was in a screamo band in college, guys. Just so you know, I'm a pretty emo kid. Renee, good job on being a 20-time superhost. That's pretty huge. With that said, guys, there's going to be more videos coming. I've created a model for pricing houses called the heptagram technique. And you guys are probably going to be like, what the is that? And it's really, really cool. So any of you with houses, stay tuned for my upcoming video about pricing with the heptagram. And I've got a lot of other stuff for you. Obviously, I'm going to be testing a lot of this summer release stuff. Be prepared. The algorithm is probably going to turn us upside down. We're going to have an issue with that too. So, but in my description for this video, there is a link to my re-algorithm webinar. I encourage you all to be there so you can learn. And suddenly it says your listing's incomplete. Okay, Garden, mention just something that matters. In the summer release, they change what they think a listing is. Or in the winter release, they change what they think a listing is. So now that it says your listing is incomplete, that means that they've added new stuff that they want to know about your property. Remember when they added all those amenities checkboxes all of a sudden? Well, during the winter release, that is one of the main reasons why people's listings stopped showing up, is because they started to care about those amenities updates, those little checkboxes. So if it says your listing's incomplete, I welcome you to just go take a real slow walk through all the tabs. I'm going to do the same thing, because we've got 100 and something properties that we've got to make sure we're up to date on too. I've got to get back to doing the rest of my job today. I just wanted to be here for you guys to let you know what's going on with this system failure, and so that way you guys have a better grip. None of you are shadow banned, right? We love you. Carlos, thanks for the super chat. Nice, thanks for that $2. I appreciate you. Guys, I love you, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.